this is fun. I was going to be putting out a LCS tier list video, but my camera's broke, and so you'll just have to be dealing with a still image of me. This is my build-up video to the start of the LCS summer split, which starts in 3 days from me recording this. This is my first league video back in a while, so forgive me any mistakes. It's going to be NA power rankings, and we'll go in order from first to last, so you can already tell that we've got FlyQuest starting first. I think dropping Ayla for Vulcan should give FlyQuest a much greater upside than Fury. I do think that in spring, Vulcan had one of his weaker splits in the LCS, was part of the reason that the roster struggled. Although if you've seen any of the news that's come out about the stuff going on in the background of that org, then I totally get it. The rest of the team at its, assuming it's true, the rest of the team at its lowest is a comfortably top 3 side in the LCS, and part of me thinks that they'll take not qualifying for MSI as an NA rep will be taken as a bit of an insult, and they'll come back with a vengeance. I think they'll start the split well, and then probably fall off as we go further into the split. I think as a minimum they have to qualify for Worlds. I'm still predicting them top 2 in spot in this split, and I think this might be a continuation of my NA hate, but you know, there is definitely a question mark over their coordination, although you have to expect Vulcan to fix some of these problems as an experienced shot caller. Cloud9, I expect more of the same from them. They'll continue to be one of the top teams in NA, but we all know they're not going to challenge at Worlds, which is a bit depressing really as a Western fan. They'll probably have a classic C9 slump at some point, which I expect them to recover from and finish at worst top 3 in the LCS. But realistically, on paper, I expect them to be a top 2 side behind FlyQuest. Golden Guardians. Their roster is still very much carried by their Korean players, I can't lie. I don't expect them to do much. The ceiling and floor of Stixxay and Licorice are way too low. Licorice did look better at MSI, but I don't know if that continues in the summer. And Stixxay, as always, is not very good. I don't know whether River and Gory can do enough to carry them, but because of the number of Cs that NA gets at Worlds, they'll be there or thereabouts anyway. I expect them to be part of the leading chasing pack alongside the likes of 100 Thieves and NRG. They also always struggle in regular season, which could give them a bad draw for the playoffs, or lead to finishing lower than they really should. They are the NA killer type team though, so I trust them to do relatively well. 100 Thieves, I put them behind Golden Guardians because I have some weird belief that GGS will continue some of their form, and maybe they'll have learned something from MSI, despite history suggesting completely the opposite. Quid will be a massive upgrade on Bjerg. I think Bjergsen was awful in spring, and whilst there are rumours about his visa being an issue, I still trust that when he does come in, he'll greatly impact the team. He's not one of the top Korean challenger mids, but he will be a solid pickup for NA. He was also one of the top Korean challenger team fighting mids, so he'll be a solid pickup for NA, especially with the issues that 100 Thieves showed they had in the previous split. The Someday pickup should make the team more consistent, especially relative to Someday to Tenacity. And given the rest of the team is quite coin flippy. And Doublelift and Busio are definitely the weakness of this team. They had some really weird laning phases last split, but I think give them a bit more experience together and they should be a little bit better. Closer is a good player. The meta for the start of the season should favour Doublelift and Closer, as it's an AD carry focused meta rather than a jungle focused meta. One thing I'd like to draw attention to is that if you watch the dive, you can see that they couldn't put any blame on Bjergsen for last split, which is just embarrassing because he was awful. So yeah. Next we've got NRG coming in at 5th. Bringing in FBI and Ignar should be an upgrade in theory, but FBI is coming off a relatively shaky split, especially relative to Luga when we're talking mechanics, who just had a few bad games mechanically. Ignar is someone who I've always found to be overrated. His last bit for Dig wasn't that great, but he does bring in some top high level experience that Pum lacked, I guess. When I say high level, I mean international. And going back to Luga, he was sometimes really disconnected from the rest of the team, especially in playoffs, and I don't think FBI will have that same sort of problem. He's more likely to fall off mechanically randomly in a game. I do have faith that this will be another challenging team, but I think that shows just how hard the quality of the LCS drops off after the top 2. So next we have Evil Geniuses, who, let's be real, this new team is awful. Their team Jojo Beyond. No other player has any other reason other than maybe Unforgiven to pop off. Armau has never been a top player in NA. He's coming out of retirement, and he was bad when he came in for Svenska and for Team Liquid. He's always been average in Academy, never been as good as the likes of UG. Ayla failed to perform alongside some of the top ADCs in the league, so why would he perform now? Revenge might finally be out of Immortals Hell, but his performances, in my opinion, have slowly declined whilst at Immortals. I do still believe in him to a degree, which could give EG a level of upside that they wouldn't have with a different top laner of similar reputation in the LCS and similar budget. But they do no longer have Peter Dunn, so I have no real reason to believe in any of their recruiting when it comes to Armao, for example. I mean, I've heard rumours about Armao, but, like, yeah, they're coming from Cloud9 where he was coaching, and they probably wanted to sell him, to be honest. Like, probably bullshit. The weaknesses of Ayla and Armao will really hold them back, but I do think the tank style of Armao might allow the carries of Revenge, Unforgiven, and JoJo to perform, as a budget team. And I think JoJo and Unforgiven have really high ceilings, but they haven't really hit them for a while. I would say at the start of the teams that aren't really contending, but I expect them to finish 6th, 7th. I think Team Liquid are coming off an EU bootcamp with the same roster they had before. The fact they stuck together might serve them quite well, especially at the start of the split where they don't have to adapt to a new roster. But I still don't really believe in this roster. I think that Pioshik's overrated and CallJJ hasn't looked like himself for a little while. I still have faith in him, obviously, as one of the top supporters in the world. I also think that the main issue, though, is their 3 carries. I mean, Summit's predictable, Harry and Yeon don't really bring enough to the table. Although they have fixed one of their main issues by bringing in Rain over as their coach. Their last coach, allegedly, was not very good. I think they could finish 5th if one of the top 5 teams fails to perform, but I also think they could finish as low as 9th. They're a solid bottom middle of the pack team. Next we got Dignitas. Rich is coming into the LCS. He's not been great, although in Heroes of the Storm, allegedly he put on some very good performances. Tomo is obviously an upgrade on Spawn, as we saw last split. I don't really know that much about Diamond, but he was shocking when he last played in the LCS for FlyQuest. So if that's anything to go by, he might be shocking again, but obviously we've got to address him as a new player. And Jensen is never very good in the regular season, and I don't think they'll make it to playoffs, so his playoff buff won't come in. I also don't think he's significantly better than any of the mids above him. Like, I don't think he's going to be better than Quid. I don't think he's going to be significantly better than Palafox. I don't think he's significantly better than JoJo. I don't think he's significantly better. He's not better than Gory. He's not better than Eminez. He's not better than Vikla. So I don't see him really making much of a difference. And Santorin's just a bit average. So next we have Immortals. I think Sullivan Treats coming in could be quite cool pickups for a budget roster. Having said that, I think Revenge is a better player than Solo. Treats should theoretically be an upgrade on Fleshy, but he hasn't played for a while, so you never know what that's going to look like. I am a Balulu fan, especially from when he played in TCL, and his shampoo does bring something different that's really cool to watch, although it is limited to Vel'Koz and Zoe, which could be pitched very easily. And I don't think anyone on this team is really a standout player. They'll probably finish outside the playoffs, but I think they're a reasonable team that won't really challenge for anything. Next we have Boogie and Chime, who are in prison. Ruby was there on Team Heretics, but I think he'll probably struggle in NA. And then you have Wild Turtle and Haunt, so Reggie's friends, coming back for Last Dance. Let's be real, they've not been good for years, like TSM. Plus, I hate the all getting away because of Reggie, and I don't expect them to finish any higher than 9th, even if every other team in the league implodes. So next, we've got to put them into sort of tiers, but I say tiers, they're more like competing for the league title, competing for playoff spots, and not making playoffs. Or, yeah, that's sort of what it is. I think C9 and Team FlyQuest should be comfortably top 2, with little to no competition from the rest of the league, unless they implode, or other teams really outperform themselves. I think then GGS, 100 Thieves, NRG, and EU Geniuses are the next tier. That they could all make worlds. I don't really expect them to light up the league or any international competitions, but they're who I think will make playoffs at the moment. TL, Dig, Immortals, and TSM will probably do very little. I expect that TL might make playoffs, especially if one team above them implodes for whatever reason, or they just look better than EG, which is completely possible, and that they might well outperform their own expectations, especially given how well they supposedly performed in Neo Scrims during MSI, and that they were aiming to perform well in the summer, but I don't know, I don't really have faith in them, but at the same time I do. And that's sort of about it. Hopefully my camera works in the next one, because it's a bit depressing just having that one image, but I'll see you in the next one.